Alongside Brent Hubbs, I'm Austin Price. Tennessee making some moves today. We'll start with the man of the hour, and it's been the man of the last couple of weeks. We've been talking about it. We've long said that, Rodney Garner was the, quote, common sense hire. We said earlier today he was going to be on this staff no matter who the defensive coordinator is. He's in Knoxville. Jason Swain putting that on Twitter earlier tonight, Brent. And, all systems go for the former Vol assistant that so many Vol fans have longed to have back on Rocky Top.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody's asking, where's the star power in this staff? And that's not a knock on the guys from Central Florida that Josh Heupel has brought with him, but where's the SEC influence? Where's the name recognition guy? And look, they're getting all of that in Rodney Garner. I mean, here's a guy who's 30-year veteran in this conference. I think maybe the most amazing thing as a position coach is he's worked at Auburn, Tennessee, Georgia, back to Auburn, now back to Tennessee in 30 years. It's the only places he's worked, which is crazy when you think about all the moving around that position coaches make. Guy who's loyal to where he's at, not real interested in moving around a whole bunch, wanted to be back at Tennessee. Wife likes Knoxville, wanted to be in Knoxville. He wants to be on Tennessee's staff, regardless of what the NCAA punishment is or isn't, whatever. He wanted to be here, the opportunity to get Tennessee right after the changes happened at Auburn. And, certainly there were times it looked like it wasn't going to happen. We thought he was going to be on Jeremy Pruitt's staff. And then when the changes came, you thought maybe it wasn't going to happen at all. But I think enough people have told Josh Heupel, hey, this is a guy you need to have on your staff big time. And they've got him on their staff. We're going to have him on their staff regardless of who the defensive coordinator is.
Yeah, and to me, just brings instant credibility on multiple different levels. I mean, like this makes, again, the most sense of any hire you could make if you're Josh Heupel. The most interesting thing you just said to me, though, was his wife likes Knoxville, wants to be in Knoxville. Contrary to the general's quarters. Who would have thought?
Yeah, she does. I mean, she likes Knoxville. She always liked Knoxville. Their daughter Bree was born here, who ironically now is on staff at Austin P after graduating from college. That makes me feel old, I guess, because she was born when Rodney was here in 1997. But I think the other thing about Rodney Garner that probably gets overlooked, because everybody's going to praise his recruiting, and certainly they should. Okay, you can rattle off all those defensive linemen that Auburn's had the last 5 or 6 years that Tennessee's gotten beat head-to-head on, Derek Brown and so on and so on. You go back to Richard Seymour, and you can go back to all these guys, and of course what he did when he was at Tennessee with Jamal Lewis, Cozy Coleman, Fred Weary, and Deion Grant. The thing about Rodney Garner is I think he's a better position coach than he's ever been given credit for. I think because he is known such as a recruiter, Austin, I don't think he's ever got the credit he deserves for being a good technician position coach. Guys play hard for him. They enjoy playing for him. He's hard on guys, but guys get better under him. And the list of guys he's got in the NFL that play the defensive line position brings instant credibility to the recruiting front as well.
Yeah, Gabe Wright, Jay Hardy, some guys Tennessee wish they had on their roster at some point or another. And I know Tennessee fans are hoping Rodney Garner can bring that same versatility as a recruiter back to Knoxville. The other hire on this Thursday would be Jerry Mack, the offensive coordinator at Rice, was the head coach at North Carolina Central, won 3 MEAC championships, was the MEAC coach of the year when he was there. Again, versatility, a guy that's been a play caller, a guy that, has been a head coach, all those things that can help Josh Heupel, and he's Tennessee's running backs coach.
Well, and I think the thing about this hire and Coach Mack is the experience he brings at being in the thick of it. He's called plays. He's made the critical decision. Are you going to go for it on 4th down? So he's going to bring some knowledge in your meeting room, in your discussions with some guys on the staff that are adjusting to the Power 5 level and that are young. He's certainly not an old guy, but he's got a good bit of experience, and certainly has experience as a head coach and managing a roster. So I like the fact that he has that experience. I think it was important on that side of the ball. Cody Burns is really young, and I think Cody Burns is going to be a good coach, but he's a young developing coach. And then you look at where they're at with the rest of the coaches. Ellerby has got some tread on the tires, if you will, more experience.
But he's only 40. It's not like he's 50 or 55.
Right. Those other guys are a bit young, and here's a guy that is still relatively young, obviously, but he's been in it and he's succeeded at a place that's hard to win at. Okay. I had a chance to visit with David Cutcliffe, and I don't think David would mind me sharing this. I had a chance to visit with him briefly, and he called it an outstanding hire. North Carolina Central's in Durham, North Carolina. They've spoken a lot of clinics together. They've been in the community together. They played each other many years. I think they played every year that Coach Mack was there. And he's got great respect for him and thinks that he's a really good person, really good hire. I like this. Does it work? Is it perfect? I don't know. We'll see. I think it's very intriguing, and there's some things I like about him based on his resume, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, I had a few people reach out to me, and they were like, I mean, this doesn't move the needle. When Trooper Taylor was hired here, he didn't move the needle either. And there's been several instances like that over the years where guys came in and they just became rock stars and just kind of fit into the place and really kind of dove in and kind of dug their feet in and became really good recruiters, really good position coaches. So I think bigger than anything is just don't judge him on where he's coming from, but more judge him on the next 4 to 6 months is his ability to recruit and then develop that running back room going forward. Lastly, we'll talk about the defensive coordinator spot. Tennessee's still looking for that. To me, Brent, this feels like Casey Rogers. And if it's not Casey Rogers, then the call will be made to Josh Conklin. Tennessee's talked with Conklin now multiple times last week and then earlier today. Talked to Casey Rogers the last few days. It just feels like that it's definitely going to be one of those two after Al Washington decided to stay at Ohio State.
Yeah, we'll see. I tend to agree with you because I think it's time that you got to get this thing done. It's becoming obviously so public about people not interested in this job or not taking that job. Unless they've just developed or found some out of left field guy in the last 24 hours that I'm not aware of. But the fact that they've had 2 conversations with Josh Conklin tells you that there's some real interest there. We know Josh Conklin wants this job. I think that's very obvious. I think the thing with Casey Rogers is it comes down to, money is important. The money would have to be right. And the ability to hire his staff would have to be there. I still think the one thing that Casey Rogers is looking at and asking himself is, do I want to be in college football? I've been in 16 years in the NFL. Does he want to come back in the college game and recruit? Does he want to coach kids who are not pros? And the only person that knows that is Casey Rogers. And I think that's probably some things that he's toying with now that it's gotten real. It's one of those things where everybody says, hey, would you be interested? Oh, absolutely, I'd be interested.
Yeah, give me
and the phone rings, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, am I really interested? And I do think he's interested, but I think there's a couple of fundamental things that he's wrestling with. I don't think this is a huge money grab situation. I think it's more, do I want to coach in college or do I want to stay in the National Football League?
Yeah, I think that hits the nail on the head because ultimately, can he get back to being a DC in the NFL? I think a lot of that depends on whether Todd Bowles becomes a head coach again. If so, then I think he probably would have a pretty good opportunity there because those two seem to be tied pretty well. If it is Josh Conklin, Tennessee obviously I think would Conklin would help in the secondary some, but I think Tennessee would look for a linebackers coach and then a secondary coach. Secondary coach, J.J. McCleskey. Let's go ahead and throw that one out there. I think that there would make a lot of sense in a lot of ways, and J.J. could help recruit the state of Tennessee. Rodney's going to come in as the guy. He's going to work Georgia. That's his old bread and butter. He ain't going to be working. You're going to have Jerry Mack in Memphis. I think J.J. can help in the state of Tennessee too with his ties, having recruited this state for Tulane for the last several years and done a really nice job. Plus, he's got all those ties. It's kind of like, I call him the mayor. I mean, he kind of reaches into several different realms with former players across this state. So that one makes a lot of sense. If Conklin is the hire, we'll see if any of that comes to fruition. Hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm just tired of watching it, covering it. I'm ready to cover spring practice. Get me to March.
Yeah. Or is there a left field grab somewhere that nobody's seen yet? We'll see. We'll see what happens moving forward. I'm with you. At least there was movement today, closer to the finish line, and we'll see what the finish line looks like. But again, the big news of the day with the hire of Rodney Garner, as we speculated was going to happen, I think that's a big get for Josh Heupel. That can get everybody's juices going, and I think that gives them some clear direction, credibility on the recruiting front right out of the gate.
And that's an updated look at where Tennessee's coaching staff is on this Thursday. We'll have the War Room coming up, released right around midnight. Full block of what's going on in football and also in recruiting. And of course, Rob will have basketball covered. For Brent Hubbs, I'm Austin Price.